Welcome to another episode of The FWOT Show. I'm still Rob Steele. It is still on the Coil Network, and Jesus Jones is still providing an excellent theme song. Let's get on with everything that's gone on in, the past couple days, because, I haven't done one of these recently. It's kind of scary how more things keep popping up than I want, because I don't want to do this show this often, because that means stupid things have happened. For example, this past Groundhog's Day, right? Just, 4 or 5 days ago, depending on when you're listening. It could be a month. I don't know. What were the top 2 stories on Groundhog's Day according to Facebook? That would be 1, the presentation of Jesus at the temple, sometimes called the purification of the virgin. The purification of a virgin. How much more pure do you need than virgin? Homogenized and pasteurized? Seriously, come on. Get with it. The other top story, the Muppets are headed to South by Southwest. Really? This is fake news. Come on, there's things going on in the world. For example, the House of Representatives just voted to remove a regulation that keeps people with severe mental illnesses from buying guns. Why did they get rid of it? The only thing I can come up with is, I guess Trump wants to buy a gun. In related news, did you hear about the absolute tragedy this is so horrible, the massacre in Bowling Green, Kentucky, as reported by Donald Trump's cabinet and all the other people? Oh my God, the massacre was not real. They made that shit up. It didn't happen. I mean, the internet has gotten a hold of it and absolutely loves playing with it. For example, there's this absolutely wonderful meme, I guess, where somebody created what looks like a real memorial plaque for the Bowling Green Massacre. It reads, "The Bowling Green Massacre. Citizens of every nationality wept as the truth died that day. Nearby, also slaughtered, lay responsibility, class, journalism, and shame. As usual, no one was held accountable for the massacre, but those who were there described a terrifying baby man with tiny hands and no vocabulary skills. Frederick Douglass had nothing to say on the subject, having already died." I'm sorry, that is absolutely awesome, and that's why I'm sharing it. And there's so many things that go along with it. Like, Black History Month, where the Trump cabinet keeps referring to Frederick Douglass as doing things. Doing, present tense. Now, Frederick Douglass was an absolutely awesome man who even my 3rd grade daughter realizes died a very long time ago. He was one of those people who helped end slavery. Yeah, that hasn't existed in, 100 and whoever years? He's not quite alive anymore. By which I don't mean he's a zombie. He's dead. Great man, but he died. Stop referring to him as doing things currently. Don't you realize he's dead? I mean, that kind of sucks, although it would be kind of weird if he was still alive. At the same time, Kellyanne Conway has been reporting a lot of this crap, and the big news about her this week is that Dennis Leary has apologized for looking like her. I think that's funny. Of course, this all comes on the heels of all the news agencies saying, look at the approval rating Donald Trump doesn't have. It's an absolute disapproval rating that, as I mentioned in the last show, which was just a few days ago, he was the quickest to get a negative approval rating in the history of approval ratings. Now, Trump has come out and said that all these polls that say no one likes him come from fake news sources. Now, I have a theory on this. Do you remember back in, I guess it was the late 80s, early 90s, when the word bad changed definitions for a while? Yeah, you remember when people say, man, that's bad, and they meant it's good. Bad meant good. Somehow there was a switch there. Do you think fake is becoming the new real? I'm just throwing the question out, seeing what people think about it. I don't know. If I knew, I would say that's what it is, but I don't know if that's what it is or not. In things that I don't know what it is, I'm trying to figure out what it is that Donald Trump has been smoking, because no one is this blatantly ignorant. Did you know that Donald Trump wants to cut off the funding for California? Yeah, seriously, cut everything off. According to Trump, If UC Berkeley does not allow free speech and practices violence on innocent people with a different point of view, no federal funds. Well, actually, UC Berkeley is known for doing free speech and not practicing violence on innocent people, although, that happens sometimes. Darn. But seriously, cutting off funding for a state? Oh, by the way, you can't do that. Period. You're not allowed. Haha. Perhaps if you knew your job. I mean, if the Apprentice, right, was the U.S. presidency, you'd have been fired by now. And speaking of the Apprentice, new host of the show, which for some reason is still on the air, Arnold Schwarzenegger, came out and said, "Hey, Donnie, why don't we switch jobs?" Now, in a sense, this could be cool because now we could get President Conan, which would be kind of cool. Conan the Barbarian for president. Although he's not really allowed to be president because he wasn't born in the country, but that's beside the point. I would much rather see Arnold Schwarzenegger as president and Donald Trump making movies that no one wants to see. I think it's a great bargain. Go for it. But this all stems out of a Twitter war that the two of them are having. Twitter war. Are they in junior high? What the hell? Presidents should not be having Twitter wars, nor should presidents be getting sued near as much. Now, when presidents start off, yes, there are always lawsuits that say, hey, this person did a bad thing in the past and let's sue them for it. Let's look at some numbers here. In the first 2 weeks of the last several presidencies, first 2 weeks, Barack Obama had 5 lawsuits. G.W. Bush, 4 lawsuits. Bill Clinton had 5. That is a total of 14 lawsuits between the 3 of them. Donald Trump, in his first 2 weeks, 55 lawsuits. Seriously, and most of them are saying things like, gee, it would be nice if you hadn't cut the funding for my school. A public school. And you know what? That's the kind of thing he's done. Cut public school funding. Because why bother having education? Seriously? I mean, it's not like they can count. The whole Trump administration. Inability to get to the number, 6. For example, more Muslims have been killed by Trump supporters in this past week than Americans have been killed by refugees in the past 3 decades. Not weeks, not months, not years. Decades. Look at numbers. Numbers are real. Read them. Memorize them. Of course, he has trouble with that, too. Earlier this week, Donald Trump's speeches were analyzed, and they are now officially below a 6th grade reading and writing level. By comparison, my daughter in the 3rd grade has now surpassed him in the ability to read and write. Would I vote for her? Absolutely. I mean, yeah, she's only 9, but so far her only big scandal has been that she has a wocket in her pocket. This whole concept of having a Trump administration is insane. I mean, you want to talk about other things they've killed off? How's this? They have appointed someone to head the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, not Family Child Care, just for those of you who are listening on an army base somewhere and get your acronyms confused. This FCC is now stopping 9 companies from providing subsidized broadband to the poor people. And by poor people, I'm including the schools the poor people use. Seriously. Well, why would they need internet, Rob? Oh, I don't know, maybe to do homework with. That's what it's there for in the schools. Do they not realize this? We need more education. I mean, you want another proof? Mike Pence. Mike Pence needs more education. He has trouble with his colors. Like I mentioned earlier, it's Black History Month. Yay. So who does Mike Pence celebrate? Abraham Lincoln. And for those of you who haven't caught on yet, Abraham Lincoln is a bit of a white guy. Yes, he has a lot to do with slavery in that he abolished it, and yet Black History Month is about black people. He's not one. Thanks for playing, Mike. Try again. Oh, who was it that was making all those Frederick Douglass comments? That was Mike Pence. Is it time to move on from this administration already? Why, yes. Yes, I think it is. In really bizarre tech news, earlier this year, the city of Milwaukee banned Pokemon Go from functioning in Milwaukee city parks. Why? Because people were walking outside and getting exercise as part of this game. And this is America. We can't have people who are in good shape, You want proof of that? Look at the Super Bowl. My God, did you see the size of the front line on either team? Now, I admit, that's what they're there for. They're there for blocking. But still, holy cow. You can be in a little bit better shape, especially those Falcons who were taken out in the game injured. I'm just saying. I mean, yeah, there was the broken leg guy. That makes sense, but I'm out of breath. No, sorry. Oh, speaking of being out of breath, did they choke? Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, yay, Tom Brady, whatever. I only saw about 12 penalties that were called on Atlanta that were also committed by New England, but not called. See, this kind of leads me into the whole thing about, is the Super Bowl just a storybook thing? Seems to be. I mean, they set it up in the early portion of the game and said, no one has ever come back from a deficit this big before. And they kept bringing it up. Foreshadowing, because it's gonna happen this time. I mean, seriously, 3 consecutive series of downs where Atlanta allows New England to keep going because of the exact same penalty. The same kind of thing that's not being called against New England. Oh, and momentum killers. That's the end of the sports part of this. Now it's on to everything else. How to kill momentum in a football game? Let's interrupt it with a Lady Gaga concert. Seriously, that's not necessary. I've never understood halftime shows. I mean, I would be pissed if I went to a game that had a show like that. I just spent $3,000 on football tickets, and yeah, they cost that much, to see a football game. And all of a sudden, a concert by someone I don't particularly care for breaks out. No. That's why the Falcons came out cold in the second half, because it's been an hour since they've been on the field. If you want to give her publicity, fine, give her a TV special after the game. Millions of people are tuning in anyway. You don't need it. But speaking of the millions of people tuning in, that's why the commercials cost $5.5 million this year for a 30-second spot, which kind of confused me a little bit because I didn't realize Alfa Romeo was building that big of a fan base in the U.S. I mean, they spent at least $15 million on ads. I didn't even know they were coming back to the States. I'm barely aware they still make cars. But the other thing with the Super Bowl commercials, I do not understand why they are no longer Super Bowl commercials. That used to be the big thing when I was growing up. Now they're already pre-released, which means they came out before the game anyway, and they no longer count. The first 3 ads I saw at the Super Bowl this year were ads that had already aired on television. Well, what the hell is the point of that? The other big complaint that I saw this year about the Super Bowl ads was, all these ads are anti-Trump. No, they're not. They're actually pro-humanity. I mean, no one in any of these commercials, specifically said, fuck Trump. They didn't. Most of these commercials were made long before he was elected. So if you view them as anti-Trump, then maybe, just maybe, you're beginning to realize that Trump is actually anti-humanity. And that's why we don't like him. So come, join humanity. We have cookies. If you would like any of the show or would like to complain, either way, go to the website, thefwotshow.com. There's buttons for Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. And feel free to subscribe to the show on iTunes or through the Google Play Store, or hell, just go for the RSS feed. It's on the site. It's quick, it's easy, it's painless, and it's fun. I would like to also thank Jesus Jones for supplying the theme song, because it's one of my favorite songs, and they said, yes, go ahead and use it, and I love them for that. Thanks, man. See, that's me, showing my humanity by saying thank you, because sometimes people are awesome. And then there's the Trump administration.